Get out of your own way. Focus on impact. Like, who would experience loss if you don't make this happen? If you don't get started, at least.
Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat of Take the Doughnut, here to help you get inspiration and get donuts. I'm a motivational keynote speaker, and today I have a Take the Doughnut interview coming your way with the one and only Genein Letford. Let me tell you a little bit about Genein. Genein is an award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and corporate trainer on creative thinking and intercultural creativity. Genein, welcome to your Take the Doughnut interview.
I'm so excited. The title of your show has me just curious. I'm so excited to be here.
We're going to talk all about it. We're just very excited to be on this conversation today, the two of us, and everybody gets to hear it, which is the great part of it. So let's start, before we get into the more serious stuff, let's start with, what's your favorite donut? The obligatory question.
I've got to go with I had this like banana donut in South Korea that I haven't even stopped thinking about. And this was 10 years ago when I was in South Korea. And I haven't seen it in America, but it was a banana shaped donut filled with banana cream. And it was quite unique and very scrumptious. So I would have to say the banana shaped donut.
I've never heard of anything like that. Banana cream.
Yes. Inside the donut, shaped like a banana with yellow icing on the top.
That's wild. Cool answer. I have to go figure out where to get one of these. Apparently in Korea. That's the move. Awesome. Well, I told a little bit about your background up front, but tell us more. What do you want us to know about you? What do you do? Who you are? Any of that?
Sure. It's an interesting adventure. My life is an adventure. I, by trade, am an elementary school teacher. Turned corporate facilitator. I taught 15 years at one school, did third grade for a few years, and then ran the music program for the rest of my time there, ran the gifted program, started a nonprofit for the graduates of my elementary school who are in junior high and high school, and some are in college, and some have, babies and married now. And then taught at the university level too. So really big on educating and being around for people's aha moment. And in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic hit, didn't know that was coming around the corner, I felt the need to move and to leave my position to address this issue of creativity, or the lack thereof. And I was just doing research, and I did some more intercultural competency research, like what's going on in our psyche and on our brain when we're interacting with people with different lived experiences. And then I realized that creativity and intercultural development overlap in the same cognitive skills. And so that was the brainchild, the birth child of intercultural creativity and the 7 gems of intercultural creativity, the book that I ended up writing from the research.
That's amazing. I think sometimes you hear people's backgrounds and you don't know quite like how it all fits with what they're doing now, but everything that you mentioned feels like you've developed every little piece of skill that you needed to get where you are today. It makes so much sense I don't know if it made sense to you as you were going through it, but it makes a lot of sense to hear it back.
It does. And another aspect was at UCLA during my undergrad around 1999, the year 2000, I got in my first fMRI machine, right, for the brain scanning, not because of a medical issue, but because UCLA is a big research institution. So I would just be signing up for all these experiments that the professors would need participants. And little did I know, 23 years later, I would be using the brain science. I'm not sure if this is a video podcast, if they're able to see this, but I'm holding up a brain for any audio listeners. And so all of my work, creativity, intercultural interactions, leadership, even something we're calling neurosomatic creativity, the interaction between the mind, the brain, and the body, It's all backed by neuroscience. And though I don't have a neuroscience degree, I call myself a street neuroscientist because I've read literally every book. I have mentors who are neuroscientists. And my latest book that my 5-year-old and I just published called My Brain, My Brain, My Beautiful Brain, which was featured on ABC 7 News a few weeks ago in Los Angeles. So really excited about sharing this work.
Oh, what a great time to get you. There's so much momentum happening in your world. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Well, today's conversation is all about Take the Doughnut. You alluded to the theme earlier, and Take the Doughnut for me means carpe diem. It's my version of seize the opportunity, seize the day. It started with this strange thing that happened in college where I left a donut on a table, and it became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to actually leave opportunities on the table. So I try to do the opposite of that now. I try to take the donut, and I'll link a video here for those who haven't seen that origin story before. But this conversation is all about what it looks like to go after opportunity and seize those moments. You sound like exactly the right person to talk to about this.
Yes.
So I want to ask you this question to open up. How are you with going after goals? What is that process like for you?
Yeah, well, I'm a big metaphorical thinker. My logo is the diamond, and yes, I have a big diamond on my desk. I'm all about props, by the way. Don't forget, I'm elementary ed, so that's my background. So
I have
even when
no
I'm
shortage of props for a donut theme talk. We are in the right business.
Yes. And even with C-suite, I mean, I work with people running multi-million-dollar companies building Legos and having Play-Doh and pipe cleaners. I'm like, hey, this is me. This is how I teach. Here we go. And so I want to stay with your donut theme because I believe the brain is hooks onto metaphor. The brain hooks onto story. Our brains are built for one another and built for story. And when I think about Take the Doughnut, I think about there's people who really focus on that middle part, what's missing, right? What didn't I get? What downfalls did I have? And they focus on that middle part. And so they don't even see, the beauty of what's actually still there, and I see the beautiful donuts behind you, and I see the sprinkles and the colors and the vibrancy, right? And I've learned that your life goes by how you frame it, the words you use to frame your experiences. So if I'm framing my life on focusing on what I didn't have and what was missing and how, someone, parents raised me or didn't raise me, or the opportunities that were given to my friend or my siblings but not given to me, then you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it because the brain goes in the direction of attention. And so for me, I was actually raised in a home and by my mom who did experiential learning. She had goals and setback. We were on free and reduced lunch, not like we had a lot of money, but she still made things work. And so that influenced the way that I do my own risk taking and goal setting. And that's another thing that I bring up in my leadership training, because I have my background in K-5 education and early child development. I tell leaders a lot of how you lead is based upon your first 12 years of life. That's key, because a lot of people don't really review that and reflect upon that. And so the fact that I was raised in a culture and in a home where goal setting was just a part of what we did. My mom, hey, let's go to the Grand Canyon. Let's go see Niagara Falls. I don't know how we're going to get there. We got to plan and budget it out and, eat top ramen all the way there and back, you just make it work. But that influenced me. And so people get to really think. So that's one thing that I'll say is where's your attention? Is it on the missing part of the donut, or is it on the beauty that the part that's still there can offer?
That's wonderfully said. I mean, it's the glass half full, glass half empty metaphor, but I think it's really looking at what's in front of you, not what you're missing out on. And like you said, your energy goes where your attention is, and that it's lovely how it dovetails so well between our topics. So that's so nice to hear. Well, when you do get started, because obviously goal setting was something that was ingrained in you early on. Once you get started, what keeps you motivated, especially if it's a big donut to take where it's going to take a lot of time or skill building? How do you stay motivated throughout?
Just going back to the brain, just tricks, these neural tricks that I've employed into my life. So writing a book is a big feat, right? A lot of people want to write a book, only like 2% have, right? And one thing that helped me, especially with the first book of the 7 gems of intercultural creativity, which lay out the different cognitive skills needed for creative thinking and cultural development and how they overlap, is I just printed out a mock like cover page and taped that thing on another book that was in my library. And I held it, right? I had it to feel it. Here's what it would feel like when this is done. And so things like that. Another thing is, once again, attention. When I did my TED talk, I needed to focus on the people in the audience, right? If I focus on, no, Genein, you're going to be nervous. And by the way, I do have a speech impediment. I had speech therapy all through my elementary school years and had an IEP. For those of people who are in education know what that is. It's just a special education document or label, basically. And so I could focus on, yeah, I stutter, I have a speech impediment, I'm going to be nervous, what if I trip over the red dot? There's all these things that can go wrong. But my attention was on the audience and my students who actually came to support me. I need to get this message out to them. I need to share this wisdom with them and the world, because TED Talks are your TEDx talks are online. And once I shifted that focus off of me and on them. And so a big part of my goal setting is thinking about the impact of what's going to happen when I reach that goal. That's huge. Writing a book, doing a speech, creating this business, and like, I can't stop because this business is going to impact people around the world. Intercultural creativity, prismatic leadership, neurosomatic creativity has the power and the potential, and it's bigger than me. So if I stop, then the ripple effect ends or could end.
So inspiring and so brave that basically every part of the career you've built for yourself, knowing that this speech impediment is top of mind for you, everything basically involves speaking and, being at front and center in big rooms or small rooms, and you overcome it every day. It's so impressive.
Yeah. And it ends up being, once again, going back to reframing. Dr. Caroline Leaf has a lot of great research on that. She has a wonderful book called Clean Up Your Mental Mess, right? And it goes into 5 steps on how you do the neuroscience reframe. And it is not just doing positive affirmations, which I love and I do, but she's like, that's like step 3. You have to go back and really look at the neural networks and the neural pathways that were laid down. And so if I had a lot of, trauma with my identity, with being a stutterer, with being bullied and all the other things, like the iceberg, that you see the stutter at the top of the iceberg, but all this stuff under the water, right? That affects your identity and how you see yourself and how you see your own potential. I had to relay those tracks down, saying, yes, I stutter, but my ideas are valuable. I can communicate my messages. There's more harm done if I keep my mouth shut than if I just go for it. And if I stutter every now and then, you know what? It happens. And a lot of times now that I put it in my keynotes, I'm in front of thousands of people. So many people come up to me and just talk about that part. Like, yeah, thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing your stutter. Some people share their own experience or their experience with their own kids. Some people may not stutter, but they have their own trials that they had to overcome. And so I just want to communicate to your listeners, the thing that you thought was a liability could end up being your superpower if you first get your neural networks framed right around it and then use it as a superpower move.
You hear that, everybody? Just reframe it. That's what we have to do. Listen to Genein. No, this is so great. Well, one thing I'm wondering here is, when you do get going, when you do get started going after a goal, are there any particular types of challenges that seem to keep cropping up on you that just are your brand of challenges that every time you go after something, you can expect that this is going to be a hurdle you have to overcome?
There's a few things there. Number one is time. Time is a huge issue. We all have it, but it looks different for a lot of people. And how I got this first book written, I just had a baby. I remember, I don't want to be too graphic here, but like nursing my son at the typewriter, just like, or not typewriter. Oh my goodness, computer. I just really gave away my age there. Which I was just coming into high school when typewriters were kind of phasing out. But it's time. Once you learn how to manage your time and being aware of what could be distracting you, right? The word distraction, if you break it apart, traction, right? It's moving you away from moving in the direction you need to move. And so learning how to really plan your day before the day comes, like what are the 3 main things I need to get done tomorrow? This month, what's the 2 main big projects I want to complete before the month ends? When you're intentional about your time, you'd be surprised. More stuff gets done, and you get to audit your time to see, okay, how much time am I really spending watching Netflix? Is this really, I believe in downtime. I believe in kind of vegging out. The brain needs that. And sometimes the brain just needs to go on a walk, right? But when you audit your time, it really makes you more aware. And then when you audit your time on where you could be making whatever your resources is, making money, making relationships, making whatever you have to do, it shows that, yeah, I spent 4 hours watching TV Monday through Friday when I could have been working on a book that once the book is done, you're making money while you're sleeping. You got to start thinking about that way. So that's one of the main things, is auditing your time and being more intentional with your time.
I love that you identified both the problem and the solution there. Sounds like really something we all need to pay more attention to and put the time into assessing what's happening with the time. So I feel like you could answer this in any number of ways based on what you've already said, but what would you say is the biggest donut you've ever taken? Could be personal, could be professional. What feels like the biggest one?
Besides jumping off of a bridge and a plane.
Ooh.
Which there's video online about that. I could send it to you to post in your show notes. But, and I did that on purpose, because if I'm fearful of something, I want to address it and I want to attack it. So even public speaking, being a person with a speech impediment, I was like, I'm not going to let this stop me. And just do baby steps, right? First, you speak in front of students and you go speak in front of a Toastmaster. So baby steps. But I would say the biggest thing would be leaving my job, where you think you're secure, which we now know no job is secure, right? And not having a full game plan. Of course, we had savings, and I'm a person of faith, so I believe in God, and that this was set up for me to do this work and along those lines. But leaving my job. And leaving, my husband is an entrepreneur, so I'm the one who carried the regular paycheck. I'm the one who carried the health insurance, which is a big thing, by the way. And with a baby, and not knowing what this could look like. And that was a big faith. But the more you do it, the more you get to see aspects and facets of your own self and what you're capable of doing. I didn't know I could, speak in front of thousands, adults, not just kids, but I didn't know I could negotiate contracts that have a lot of zeros behind them, especially coming from the elementary ed, where, elementary ed and preschool teachers are not paid that much compared to the education that they have. And yeah, you get put in situations that you may not have been trained for, but you learn to step it up and get it done.
Absolutely. Well, with that in mind, what are you working on now? Is there a donut that's currently in progress for you?
Yes, of really putting myself in the mindset that what I am doing is global. What I am doing is generational, meaning I expect this company and this curriculum to be running even when I'm no longer here. I expect this to be a $1 billion company. It's weird to talk that way when you're speaking for free, right? Because you're just trying to get it out there. But if your audience members are really driven, and it's not about money, it's about purpose, number one. So whatever numbers people are dealing with, but it's about impact and purpose. And I believe that you get 100 years, right? I hear that song by Five for Fighting. You're 15 for a moment, right? The 100 years song. And I listen to that on like every birthday because it shows me time is passing. So Genein, if you get 100 years on this earth, you might as well just go for it. Like really, like, you might as well just go for it. And so for me to be creating this and now bringing on other speakers who are on my team, learning the curriculum and going out there and teaching the curriculum and doing keynote speeches around this topic, that's the goal, and might as well just do it. We're doing online classes. We're doing certification programs to be certified in intercultural creativity as well. I want to travel the world and do trainings like in Japan, where people use the arts to do self-awareness work, and they use the arts to do cultural awareness work. And when I say culture, I don't just mean ethnic and national culture, but just group culture. You know, you can have an HR culture, a tech culture. And I first have to know it in my imagination. If I can't see it in my imagination, I can't bring it to fruition. So if I can see it in my thoughts and in my dreams, then we can make it happen.
So interesting. Yeah. I think, as you talk about that, it just makes me really think about like, where are you headed? How big does it become? One of the most impactful questions that somebody asked me early in my business was, how big do you want your business to get? And I had never thought about that before I was asked it. But for those who don't, maybe there are people listening who don't have a business, I think you can ask that same question about your legacy, about your life. What is the goal of this thing? Like, how big do you want this to be? How small do you want this to be? What's the priority? So the fact that you started maybe thinking here and then you realized this thing is a lot bigger. It's like you're still looking for the edges.
Yes,
I think that's so interesting.
Yeah. And that's good that you made that a point. It's not about just like the bigness of a business per se. And I believe everyone does have a business. Like, you are the CEO of you, right? And the things that you do have impact. So if you are a stay-at-home mom, which I'm kind of like a half a stay-at-home mom and half of a business owner, and we're homeschooling my son who's 5 now, the co-author of our book, our Inner Child's book. And that's a huge job. That is a huge job. Kudos to stay-at-home parents and caretakers. Oh my goodness. And so this is the same thing of how much effort and intention do I want to put in this life form, right? That has the possibility to do amazing things, right? So my business is my baby as well. And just like a baby, you think they're yours, but they're not yours. Sean came through me and came through my body, but he's his own entity, right? And my job is to tool him up with the tools that he needs to succeed to go off and fly. I heard a quote that someone said that, I'm someone who has older kids and their kids are grown and gone. They said, I'm not an empty nester. I'm like a eagle projector or something like that. I was like, that is perfect. I'm gonna start saying that now. Like, yes, I'm not an empty nester. I project eagles. An eagle launcher. That's what they said. And I am an eagle launcher. That is my job, to launch my child off to do what he has to do in the world.
Beautifully said. You're already starting to answer this question, but I'm curious what you'll say to this. Let's do the sprinkle some encouragement section. For those who are listening, we love a good theme here. For those who are listening, who they're going after a donut of their own, or they're thinking about it, what advice would you give them as somebody who's done a lot of this? What recommendations, what tips do you have for their process?
The first thing is like the abstract, sayings is like, get out of your own way. Focus on impact. Like, who would experience loss if you don't make this happen? If you don't get started, at least. The next one would be to get started small. We're at the gym this morning. It was before the sun was coming up. So it was like 5 or so. And then as I was working out, I saw the sun slowly, like the sky slowly get, orangish and reddish. And then it just comes up. And that just made me think, because we're all about metaphors, you and I, right? That the day doesn't just go from night to dark to just 12 o'clock, right? It's like, bam, all this brightness. It's a gradual, beautiful, just coming into. And a lot of your audience's goals are the same way. It's a gradual. Don't be afraid to start small. Don't be afraid of there's a saying that I do, of humble beginnings, right? Don't despise the day of humble beginnings. And a lot of babies start small. Humans don't just pop out, 170 pounds. We wouldn't be able to survive. Number one, that happened. They come, 4 to 10 pounds for a reason. And human brains are very immature and take the longest to mature out of all the species because of the prefrontal cortex for a reason. It's growing. This part is growing. So allow yourself to grow into it. If I would have left my job in 2 weeks, would have been dealing with the stuff I'm dealing with now, I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have had the muscles to basically handle what I'm handling right now 3 years ago. So there's a reason you start small, you get started, you just do what you can. You get people around you who are speaking life into you, get rid of naysayers, or people are like, why are you doing that? Just go get don't just go get a simple non-thinking job and just do the bare minimum to get through and just get your bills paid. And ask yourself, do you want to live a life of just, hey, I got all my bills paid, but that was about it? You have to go face to face with that question on your last day of life. So what does that look like? And you might as well just get started and know that if you just keep moving, you'll get there.
Amazing. Well, you've given a lot of great tips today, but if people want to hear more from you or about you, where can they find you?
I'm everywhere on social. I share the research, I share pictures, I share tips from Sean, of how creativity looks from a childlike perspective. And I do a lot of keynotes. So I share some bits about my keynotes. And then if they need a speaker for their event or a corporate trainer for their organization, we do a lot of leadership training and inclusion training and team building training with Legos and Play-Doh as well. So they can just reach out on Cafe Strategies, CAFFE strategies.com, or my own name, GeneinLetford.com. I can be reached in both places.
Perfect. I'm going to be sure to get those links into the description. And everybody be sure to check out those resources. And if you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, because we've got more amazing interviews coming up with people who have a lot to say about going after goals. So Genein, thank you so much for joining today, for sharing your stories, for sharing what inspires you, and for giving us all some things to think about.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Don't forget to sprinkle it.
Never forget to sprinkle it. All right, everybody, you know what to do. Get inspiration, get donuts. Bye.